I used to.
Thanks for coming.
I don't.
Right,
I used to.
you guys ready down
adding
here?
a million different ways. I spelled it just
Okay.
fine. And
Mac,
then
are we-
and then it ended up being an IE.
Is that
I don't
good?
know. I don't even know.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
All right, so waiting on Mac trying to get things fixed.
Yeah.
Are we good to go? Okay. All right, well, good evening. We are so happy to be here in Carlin. We're glad the weather didn't keep us from coming. And we're glad to see so many of you here in your red Carlin attire. It's awesome. I know you guys have a lot of things to be proud of, and we're excited to hear from you this night. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up and talk about items 7.02 through 04. I had issue with these items coming up. I didn't know that they had been on the agenda until they actually came out. And I feel like I need more time to even look at that, and just that today isn't the day to look at it with it being election day and everything. I'd like maybe a cooling off. I do want to say that since I made the public statement that I was going to propose that we table these, I have received more clarity on the item, and I understand why it is on the agenda, and I don't disagree that it shouldn't be there. But that's my feeling on it, and I just wanted to make that known.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Thank you. And the agenda is approved. Motion carries with the majority. We will, before we move on to item 1.4, Mr. Anderson is going to introduce our student board member. We're so glad to have you with us tonight. He has got a bio for you. So let's
Yes, I
get started.
do. I don't have one, but I do. All right, so in here it says Addison, but you go by Addie, is that correct?
Either or.
Okay, well, I'm gonna read it then. It says Addison. So Addison Melendez has been a Carlin student since kindergarten. Thank you. She is a shining example of what hard work and dedication can achieve when someone puts their mind to something. In high school, Addison is a 5-sport varsity athlete, which is impressive because there's only 3 seasons, a 5-sport varsity athlete, and despite this hectic schedule, she manages to maintain great grades. In addition to being an athlete, Addison is also president of the student council, does STEM and robotics, as well as being on our academic Olympic team. She is always willing to help her classmates and teachers while bringing a fun and energetic attitude to any situation. After Addison graduates, she hopes to attend University of Nevada, Reno, and pursue a degree in social work. She is and will continue to be a great example of all the good things happening in Carlin. That is the end of her bio. We welcome you, and I'm just going to preemptively say, once you get that degree in social work, we got a job here for you. So don't go far. Welcome, Addison.
Well, Addie, you should show up at every meeting because not everybody gets an applause right away. So thank you for being here. We're excited for you to be part of this. All right, we'll move on to item 1.4, receive a presentation from the Carlin Middle School Math Counts.
Cool. That works. We're getting there. You're good, Caitlin. They're a little nervous. Oh yeah.
We're just glad you're here. It's okay if you're a little nervous. We're just excited to hear what you have to tell us. So looking forward to it.
you want them to introduce themselves?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Tammy.
I can start it. I'm Lisa McKelly. I'm co-advisor with Tammy Smithberg.
I'm Abigail Capel, 8th grade. I'm Alexandria Wiggum. I'm in 7th grade.
Amber McGovey, 7th grade.
Golden Alley, 8th grade. Lane Martin, 7th grade. Tyson Ziegler, 7th grade. Ashton Berger, 7th grade. Terry Bergner, 6th grade. Caitlin Pooley, 8th grade, and math counts president.
Vice Principal, Mrs. Smithberg, and the other co-advisor.
So, Carlin math counts. What is it? The math competition against other groups. We're trying to raise enough money to go to Reno for the competition, and we will be doing concessions on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December behind the gym. I would like math counts. Fun, challenging problems, teamwork, fundraising to be able to attend competitions, and trouble. Math counts, the challenging following. Fun problems to advance math skills, solving problems help us in math classes, working out hard with math problems with other students. What we do, we meet twice a month, practice math problems, fundraise, and later in the year, we will do the chapter competition. Fundraising, we plan the details of fundraising during the meetings, math practice. We all have printouts of last year's problems throughout the week. We can individually work on them, and then at the meetings, we discuss them. We practice the problems and learn how to solve ones we don't already know how to do.
We do many types of math problems and math counts, such as geometry, algebra, etc. Example, the value of 3 to the 4th power minus 2 times 4 to the 2nd power. The median of 4, 16, 0, 8, 3, 11, 7. We challenge ourselves in many ways to overcome the challenges that can stop or even alter the way we do what we do.
We're doing everything we can so we can participate in the math counts competition. Our money goal is $1,300, and we will be helping with community service, concessions, and more. We will be doing concessions for basketball, and we have already done concessions for that.
There are a total of 4 levels: school, chapter, state, and national. Each with 4 rounds: sprint, team, target, and countdowns. We practice the problems from last year in sprint, from the sprint and right round. Prepare for the chapter competition. The chapter competition is held in February.
We go to Reno to participate in our competition among other schools in Northern Nevada. Our fundraising will allow us to actually take part in the event, which is why we would like to get as much support and fundraising and funding as possible. Not only do we complete the celebration. Conclusion. It would help us greatly if you would let us go to Reno. Support fundraisers and continue to let us help with concessions to support math counts. We would like to participate in the math counts competition to prove that Carlin Schools is capable of going to these types of events in the future. Participating in this competition will improve our analytics, problem solving, and math skills. Therefore, doing better overall school and improving our test scores.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. McKelly and we didn't write any of this. They wrote all of this. We said, here, this is what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. And so they actually created the PowerPoint.
All right, well, that's awesome. Well, since you
Great
guys are
job.
still here, are there any questions or comments from the board?
I just want to say, great job. You guys, your energy is great too. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
I just thank you very much, and you can never go wrong with math, so keep it up.
The only thing I'd have to say about that is I definitely 100% think that they should go to it, because I was actually I was in the last group who did it before COVID hit, and I think 100% that it's worth going to. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. I love to have a past math counts and some future math counts students here. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
All right, well, good luck with your fundraising. We're excited to see the community support you, and we are excited to see you be able to go to Reno and compete. Now, when you do the chapter competition, do some of you get to go past chapter, or is there an elimination point at chapter? How does that work?
So what happens is we'll compete against, there's 8 schools in Reno we're gonna compete against. And they take the top 4 teams and the top 12 individuals. So if we're one of the top teams or we have one of the top individuals, they get to go to the state competition. And then if we rate from the state competition, usually it's at Disney World, so nationals will be Disney World. So we're hoping, I think we have the capability.
That's awesome.
Keep working.
Awesome. We'll keep hoping and keep working. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. All right, let's give him one more. All right, and you guys can't see Mr. McCarty, but he is giving you a big double thumbs up. He's on the screen here. He's joining us, virtually because he can't be here. So you got the big double thumbs up from Trustee McCarty over here. All right, we'll move on to item 1.5, recognition of the October Stars recipient.
I think Ms. Smithberg is going to present it. The STARS program is a recognition program. And so once a month, a certified and classified employee is recognized through the use of a Google form, which any one of you in this room can fill that out and nominate someone. Just a little plug there. Ms. Smithberg.
I had actually wrote Lindsay's, and that was in October. So come on up, Lindsay. So Lindsay Wiggum is our register secretary, and Lindsay has been very helpful as her role as secretary. We started in August before the teachers and students came back, and she was our only secretary. She has been a staff member since October of 2001, and she was doing all the roles as she was the only one and only. She helped us interview, train, and gather 2 more amazing secretaries, and she continues to help train and gather information for our school to be very successful. She does go above and beyond to inspire students, staff, and the community to feel welcome in our buildings. She's the go-getter and always willing to learn and take new adventures to make our school the amazing schools that they are. Lindsay always has a smile on her face and is always willing to find out information by calling her other resources when she doesn't have the answer. And every office needs a Lindsay, and I still feel this way. They just cannot have my Lindsay. And we do truly appreciate everything she does.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lindsay.
Congratulations, Lindsay, and thanks for being here so we could recognize you. All right, we will move on to item 1.6, input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues, except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. This is a non-action item. I have one request, and I promise I'll open up the floor for any other requests. Lincoln Litchfield.
I have a question. I was talking to my daughter. We went up to Montana. She wrote what this for my other daughter's wedding. And she had a concern about school buses. She lives in the Pinion Apartments. Their kids go to Southside. They're within 1.5 miles of the school, so they have to walk. Or if there's 10 or less, they can ride the city bus. If there's 10 or more, then those other children have to walk to school. They walk across Memorial Highway with no school gate guard. We're talking 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders that are walking across a 4-lane highway. And to me, you're looking for trouble to happen. If a child gets hit on that highway, I don't know whose responsible it is, but they're heading to school. So my opinion would be to see about funding for a school bus to go over there. One of my grandson is in a special ed program. Oh, he lives in the same apartment and he gets to ride a bus. His brothers, which aren't in the special ed program, have to walk. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we have a couple email comments as well.
All right. First one's from Lee Hoffman. Greetings, President Bastrop and trustees. My name is Lee Hoffman. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I support our schools and our school district and want our education system to succeed and excel. I was on the committee to write the arguments for passage of the bond question in the 2021 special election. I often comment at your meetings, but I do so respectfully, trying to help with suggestions and questions, not intending to damage or condemn. We have had a rough 3 years and the ECSD has suffered. It has lost a lot of public trust and sympathy as shown by the outcome of the pay-as-you-go and bond questions. Nationally, education is a big issue in the current election. Distrust of our government institutions is dividing our society. Locally, things are equally tense. I encourage you to think long and hard about the possible damage to our community and our school district by continuing to fan the flames. When you apply for a concealed carry permit, you are taught that de-escalation is the best policy. Bringing a lawsuit against a candidate for this board will further escalate controversy and division. I urge you to at least table the item regarding a defamation lawsuit against Brian Gale, and at best take no additional action. Please don't make things worse. All right, and then we have another email. This is from Brian Gale. My dearest Elko County School District Board of Trustees, I do hereby rescind and unreservedly, I think rescind is what that's supposed to be, and unreservedly apologize for any and all statements I might have made that have been misconstrued as false or that might be interpreted to defame or disparage in any way the persons of Teresa Dastrup, Ira Wines, Susan Neal, Josh Byers, Matt McCarty, or Jeff Durham. I have not, to the best of my knowledge, ever made any such statement, but if one exists, I do hereby withdraw it. In this board meeting, you will be asked to consider a defamation suit against me. Even if one statement I have ever made, verbal or written, has been false, then I wholeheartedly endorse your ability to seek legal satisfaction for it. This is not the case, however, so I respectfully request that you not waste the taxpayers' money and your own time by entertaining thoughts of suit. For my 10-minute YouTube study of defamation, this case will most likely be for libel, written defamation. In order for a libel suit to be valid, 4 things must exist. Statement of fact, not opinion, like you'd see in an opinion column. Stated facts must be false. Stater must know the facts are false or at least be negligent in their statement. Harm must occur by the statement being made. There are a number of approaches to invalidate the claim of libel. Firstly, by having all facts be true. After reviewing my statement, there are only a couple of facts that could possibly be brought into question. Did CJ Anderson spearhead the removal of the 3? Isn't that exactly what he admitted in his letter to the editor? I am more than ready to admit that someone they are referring to is likely me, though it is hard to know for sure because I was not the only one who sent a letter to the Attorney General during that time. Is Mr. Sawyer regularly paid between $15,000 and $30,000 per month? This one seems really easy to prove. Was Mr. Sawyer paid by the board to be investigator of yet undeclared gubernatorial candidate Joy Gilbert, provable by FOIA documents? Was Mr. Sawyer also tasked with investigating private citizen with a Facebook group, Misty Atkins, again provable through FOIA documents? Was it Mr. Sawyer who was able to convince the 3 by threat of prolonged legal action against their businesses, jail time, and fines to resign, even before they had time to seek a legal second opinion? There are 3 Elko County citizens who can validate this claim. Isn't it funny that I don't question any statements I've made about any of you trustees? That's because I have not said anything about trustees, the only ones who will be asked to bring a suit against me. If you trustees do try to bring suit, it will be thrown out on grounds of standing. You can't sue because no fact was stated against you, no harm happened to you. The only person who might actually have standing is Sawyer. Will he be able to convince the board to pay him to sue me in his own behalf? If so, he is truly a masterful legal contortionist. Brian D. Gale.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? All right. Well, we are again glad to be here. And if you do have a comment that you want to make later, maybe about earrings, I know I saw some pretty amazing earrings.
They're $5, they're a fundraiser for the school, and the CTE program is actually 3D printing them. And I think she does 20 in days, she said, something like that, it's 20 pairs a day.
Prints a ton of stuff, not just.
Right. Well, anyway, I know you wanted to talk about that and you didn't, so thank
there
you.
go. So, no,
That's-
and they are cute and they're fun.
Well, thank you for that, because I know you wanted to. So thank you for that comment. We're always excited to see students participating in so many different ways. Anyone else want to make a comment before we move on? There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting as well. So if you have one to make, you can save it for then. All right, we'll move on to item 2.1, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JDBA, student discipline, rules of behavior, use and possession of by pupils of a cellular telephone or any other similar electronic device. This is for possible action. All right,
So I'm gonna
Mr.
insert this
Anderson,
one.
yes.
And I'm flying without the computer today, so hopefully I do this right. But so as you consider this, it's a revision to an existing policy. Cell phones have been around since like the real late 90s, early 2000. This cell phones have changed a lot, and the prevalence of cell phones has changed a lot since 2008. So we did a little bit of updating to it. I'm gonna make a recommendation, and it's for you to, whenever you make a motion to do whatever you decide to do as a board, I'm recommending that we actually, if you're going to approve this policy, I'd like to recommend that you strike item 6 from it entirely. Item 6 essentially says, I don't have it in front of me, but that offenses are cumulative throughout grades 7 through 12. That would essentially mean, just to clarify, that if a student got busted with a cell phone 3 times in 7th grade, then twice in 8th grade, by the time they go to high school, they're already on their 6th offense, and they're getting treated like they're a 6th-time offender, when we know a lot of growing up happens between 13 and 15, or whatever ages we're talking about, the window of time. So we do utilize the 7 through 12 cumulative for other electronic usage infractions, such as major ones with district devices and that sort of thing. But from a practitioner standpoint, as a principal, as a vice principal, when I was that before, and from talking with people who are that and have been that recently, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that with cell phone infractions. That concept would still stand for other types of electronic infractions, but I don't recommend that happens for cell phone usage, especially with so many differences with how a teacher might have those types of rules in their classroom versus the school rules versus the policy. Like, those things do change from place to place, within the cafeteria, within the hallway, right? Like, those things vary, and a lot of growing up happens every year. So in the spirit of restorative discipline and trying to help kids have chances and start with a clean slate, that's my recommendation as you look through the rest of this policy. So,
All right, thank you.
and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I have a question for you on that. Would we need to replace that with something, or would it just be automatically reset at the first of the year? Or is that what we'd be looking at is having it reset, as you go up a grade, you've got a clean slate on the first day?
Oh, so that's more, that would get managed within the Infinite Campus Behavior Management System. When an administrator documents a behavior incident, there would be in a notes section, you might put, this is if it was a non-cell phone related one, for example, they could say, this is the 3rd infraction since 7th grade. But if it was something with cell phones, it's understood that at the beginning of a new school year, that doesn't carry over. So that would be how that would work.
All right, any other discussion on this one?
I don't know how the rest of you feel, so that's just why I'm bringing it up. I think it should be for more than just grade 7, 12, just for the fact that kids are getting phones younger and younger. And maybe there's not a super big problem, but I think we should have something in place for the younger kids as well.
Madam President, I agree with you on that. This is actually something I think I talked to you about right after we were appointed, about cell phones and stuff. So I was happy to see this policy actually come down. Just knowing as I look at employment and as a manager and supervisor, we generally wouldn't allow employees to use their phones because it's super distracting. They get caught up and they're in the building to learn. So I think that it's good to have this policy, and it's up to each, as I read it, it's up to each principal as to how strict they want to be with it. So it gives some latitude there to our administrators to also, be as lenient or as strict as they'd like to be on the policy to suit whatever needs of that school are. So I'm in support of this policy.
Okay, other comments from the board?
Madam
Addie is our,
President, if
is
I
our
may?
student. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I would agree with Susan in reading the policy. If we strike item or subsection 6, I guess that would remove the 7-12 reference, correct? So that would then make it a K-12, pre-K-12. Is that correct?
I don't see it otherwise.
Then it would just be a general
That'd be a
policy for
general
everybody.
policy At that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
Great.
Cover it.
Yeah,
I don't
Okay.
see any other
that's
reference
the
to
only
7 to
reference to
12.
age. Yeah.
And the only other change really is lumping all electronic devices collectively as cell phones. So I see no reason why we should not pass this, and I'll yield motions to those in the floor after, of course, Ms. Melendez has had her opportunity to speak.
Addie is our student board member. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
No, I agree with it. I feel like it removes the distractions from the classroom. The only other thing I could think of that would be on it would be maybe leaving it up to the teachers just like a little bit as well. Like not like a lot, but just a little bit. Because I do know like in the high school there's quite a few like students who work really well with music and some who don't. So like if they like have earbuds in, but then like their phone is like in their back pocket or face down on their desk or something like that, and like that situation. Because I'm a student who, depending on the subject, can or can't work with other like sounds or whatever. And like I know other classmates can or can't, like opposite of what I can do. So I feel like in the aspect of maybe understanding your like students and like the school, I feel like that would be my only comment. But I really like it because it removes the distractions from the classroom.
Thank you. And I had a similar thought as far as, giving teachers the opportunity to choose whether they will have students use that. But as I kind of read through this, I thought, well, if the permission comes from the principal and the principal says, hey, teachers, if you're going to use these in your classroom for something like that, or for some Quizlets or anything like that, I know, we sit in training sometimes where they say, get out your cell phone and we're going to do these quizzes, or whatever. And so I don't know if we need to specifically put in that it's also up to the teacher or just leave it under the purview of the principal. But I agree, having the teacher be able to make a decision about their classroom, I think is important as well.
Yeah, and to your point, Addie, I think it's a really great point. Kind of reiterating what Ms. Dastrup just said. Instead of being too specific in here, it's good to, because the reality of practice is, even though it says the principal's permission, I've been a principal, and I've been a principal in really, really, really big schools, and like the reality is no one's going to the principal to ask for permission to use a cell phone. Like that's just not how that works. The principal kind of sets up, usually in the form of you guys probably either have a student handbook or a code of conduct, one of those two, and that would dictate in there. And that's essentially the permission of the principal, right, to teachers to be able to do X, Y, Z at our campus, and then teachers kind of enforce that at the classroom level or the cafeteria if that's an area where there's restrictions, that sort of thing. But usually, most of the time, the way that works well is when the principal and the staff at the campus have a good understanding of what the expectations are, and it's usually actually the rest of the staff that's enforcing that, and then under the direction of the principal, and then hopefully as a principal you never have to deal with it because it's being managed well in the classroom and in other areas, and if it eventually gets to you, you handle it. But yeah, that's how that works.
And just like as long as like the teacher, like any staff member, like for that fact, just like sticks to ground and make sure that they stay with what they're going to choose to do.
Amen on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Got it.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Now, I know this can be a hot topic. I would welcome public comment on this one, please.
I just had a quick question about that. When you mean cell phone usage, what specific language you mean? Like, are we talking about just texting and phone call? like TikTok, things like that, you know what I mean? Because what it is there are kids that will not do very good things on their phone, especially teenage boys. And at school, I mean, that, they're like, even bullying could be another one. Sometimes they will use their phones for bullying. So in my personal opinion, I don't think those things should be, we'll erase it the next year. You know what I mean? But there are certain things, and, you know, and I don't know if, you know, the policy includes any of that, or if that's included in a different policy, but, that certain things like bullying or, you know, taking pictures of people while they're changing or whatever like that, because that stuff happens. That those things should not be erased just because it's a new school year.
So those things are, oh, I see what you're saying. Absolutely. I actually meant to say that earlier, and then comments got going. But when I said, you know, cell phone usage separate from other electronic misuse, there are certain things that are egregious when it comes to cell phone usage that, again, lots of times, and I know some people don't like the vague nature of this, but we have very talented administrators who have good judgment in scenarios, and lots of times it just comes down to a judgment call in those situations. Hey, this is a serious one, and we need to keep this one documented. And because you're right, texting your girlfriend during class is not the same as you know, recording a fight that you helped instigate, right? Like those are very different scenarios, and one is certainly significantly more egregious than the other. And so, yeah, that one might carry on to another year. I think when we talk about things that wouldn't carry on, it's kind of routine, like widely accepted usages of cell phones that just shouldn't be happening during instruction because it gets distracted, not because it's like creates a hostile environment or something. That's a different type of infraction. Yeah, good input.
I would also add that some of that would be covered under our bullying policy and
Correct.
cyberbullying, which is something that we also just updated, 4 or 5 meetings ago.
Yep.
So we're pretty fresh on all of that.
And in that scenario, we wouldn't even be labeling a situation like that as an electronic violation. That would be under our bullying policy, which is much more strict. That's not a carries over from year to year. That's do it twice and we won't see you again. So, yeah.
All right, any other comments? Any other comments or thoughts from the board?
I have a question about the acceptable use agreement. Are we updating that at some point?
Yeah.
I have it already. I was waiting for this to finish and then we're posting it on the website and we're ready to go with it.
Okay.
Good question, Susan. Thank you. How would the board like to proceed?
I move to approve the proposed changes to policy JDBA
With striking item 6.
with striking
Is that what you meant by the changes
items.
as well?
Yep.
Okay,
number 6.
I'll second it.
Along
Okay.
with the grade level?
it's
That
all in
was all
item 6,
consolidated.
all in the same location. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the changes to policy JDBA, which also includes striking item 6, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 2.2 is receipt, review, and possible approval of incentive grants for possible action. All right, Cassie.
Do you want me to intro it or you got that? Oh, I want the whole thing. I'm just saying if you want to. I don't. The microphone's over there. We all have the microphone. Why don't you take it, Cassie?
Okay, so these are a semi-annual application that schools are allowed to submit for. Combined schools can submit 2 applications per year, one in the fall and then one in the spring, and then just other schools can only submit 1 application, have it awarded. So I believe there's 8 applications that were submitted. And we decided to increase the match this year, so schools can be awarded up to $5,000, and if they provide that as match, it's on a point system. So some of the projects, they can go up to $10,000. And a few questions that I've had throughout the year. The application does not need to be for one sole project. They can have multiple projects in there that we could be funding. We try to just get our schools to apply for as much as they can.
Any questions from the board?
I had one. I spoke to you this weekend about it, Mr. Anderson, but the bid for on these, there are quite a few of the schools that are getting new smart touch boards. And I had noticed that Elko High School was getting a much better price than a couple of the other ones, and I just wondered if we'd.
That might have been, I know that Mac might, maybe when they were looking at the price quote,
I
it might not have
grouped
been
a whole
updated.
bunch together
Yeah.
to get a better price on shipping.
For
Like it went from $500 a TV to ship to $69 around that.
Yeah.
So it was quite a bit of a difference.
So is there any way we can pool all those together and save on all the schools?
I have
'Cause
been
it's-
trying to do that as they
it's-
come in, yes, but
yeah.
unfortunately, they don't come all in at the same time
Right.
like that. This was the last one I put in was a 20 TV order.
All right.
So
I just, the price difference was pretty big. It was like, went from 2,500 at Elko High, and then some of the other schools are paying about 3,200.
And it depends on if they're getting the 65 or
Or the 75,
also.
yeah. Just wanted to point that out. But other than that, no other comment.
Right, any other
Madam
questions?
President, if I may,
Yes, please.
I would follow up on Jeff's comment as well, that yes, I noticed that as well. It appeared when I looked through it that all of them were getting 65-inch boards, and so as such, the difference seemed to be in shipping. If there's any way that the three administrators could work together to perhaps dole out as they come in, or however that may work. Mac, I certainly leave it in your capable hands, though I would suggest that perhaps to save shipping, we can try to combine that. If there's a way possible for that to happen, and that allows for an extra smart board to be purchased with the savings from not having the high expense of the shipping for each of those other two schools, is that something that needs to be worked into a motion today? Or Cassie, can you work that through with knowing that's the intent?
Mac and I can do that on our side, knowing that that's the intent.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can discuss with the administrators.
Terrific. I appreciate that. And I certainly, because Elko High School, Mountain View Elementary, and Sage Elementary all have submitted this, it seems like we're going to start seeing more of these. And Cassie, I'm sure you're already working on whatever grant situations there can be. My understanding is this cannot be a pay-as-you-go expense, either using the money we currently have, or if some other funding source is approved by the voters in the future. Is that correct?
Correct. The only way that we could buy technology as pay as you go is if we were building a new facility, a new school, and then we were furnishing it. So
Okay.
if it was a new building, anything that was going in it could be used with pay as you go.
Okay, great. Thank you. The final comment I have is, as Cassie indicated at the beginning, this is a one-time or once per fiscal year application, and I highly encourage any schools that have not applied yet, that are planning on applying in spring, please maximize the grant. Spoken as a person who's had years of experience in the nonprofit world and seeking grants, don't be afraid that we are going to, let me phrase that. As an individual board member, and having been on boards previously that have granted this, I've never seen someone say they're too greedy, they're asking for, for above and beyond. We've set that cap at 5,000. Personally, if we've set that cap at 5,000, that's what we've budgeted. I expect that we're going to spend all 5,000. So please ask for the 5,000. Continue these applications, and if you find that you have some extra money, find something else. I know that our schools always have needs. So please, administrators and requesters, fill out that grant as much as you can. I appreciate this. I'm going to go silent again and let the rest of the people in person move forward. And I do support all of these, and I appreciate the work that's gone into them. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Any other comments?
I just want to say I appreciate all the people that put those applications together, because I know last year, I think I said something about, they're not very detailed. But I really appreciated the detail and just really knowing what that project was. So thank you to everyone that put those together, and your work as well, and Max too.
All right, how would the board like to proceed?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the incentive grants as listed in item 2.02.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 2.3 is receipt of quarterly update reports. This is for possible action.
Awesome. We'll have Paul and Candace, you can go ahead and start us off.
So we just wanted to real briefly update you on where we are on the textbook adoption. Initially, our plan was to go with 3 textbooks, but we couldn't find a company that met all of our needs or that had all their materials had been vetted by the state. So we're down to 2 now. We met with that company. I think there were 5 representatives that they sent to help us out. So that was nice to see. We're in the process of getting them numbers of kids in classes, which classes, and then also where those classes will be at, so they can tailor the pilot to fit where our teachers are as much as they can. That one will start in January. We've got a training, 2 days, 11 and 12 training for them to come in. This company is Savas, and then we'll move on to the second one after that. CJ expressed when we were talking about this, he was a bit nervous that nothing had happened yet. I was crapping my pants through most of this process because it's new and we didn't know where it was going. We're in good hands now. The ladies from Savas are on top of things. Teachers are excited to get these materials out there and get a chance to get new materials that we haven't had in a while. And then the other thing I wanted to speak about is the Hope Squad. We're looking at getting grant funding. I think the grant comes open in January.
You said 2 months.
What the Hope Squad is, it's a peer-to-peer kind of suicide intervention thing that they started in Provo, Utah, a school there that had a real problem with suicides. And after they started this program, I think they said it was 12 years before they had one, and they'd had them yearly. So what we'll do is if we get the funding, our initial idea was to go secondary. But if we get enough money, we'll include the elementary school. And the elementary doesn't deal as much with suicide. It's more just be nice to each other, that kind of stuff. And then we send off individuals from each school site. Our district social work coordinator, Larry Robb, is going to head this up. The teachers get trained, the counselors, whoever it is, and then they come back and provide the training to the kids. And it really is based on the kids just learning how to help each other out, learning to look for signs, things like that. So it's the day that we found out that the grant was out there was a huge day because it's fairly expensive and we weren't going to be able to do much without the grant, but the grant should cover at least our secondary and for the elementary. So a good resource for our kids.
Something else to comment in there is I know there's, whenever we talk about suicide prevention or social emotional learning, sometimes there's some hesitancy there from people with, what does that mean? What are my kids going to be learning about? This program includes multiple parent components, and that would be for parents of kids who are just receiving the curriculum. And then it also involves a very thorough parent involvement and sign-on process for if your kid is going to be one of the student leaders in that process as well. So real transparent, open and honest show to everybody of what that would include and what that means and the type of information that would be presented to kids as well. So just recognizing and knowing what concerns are. I want to make sure that that's something people know we're thinking about those things as we consider what's right for our community, while also recognizing a real need that needs to be met.
Any questions for Mr. Allen?
I never said you weren't doing anything.
Well, Mr.
I just thought we were piloting something soon.
I said you were nervous. Nothing was happening. Not that we weren't doing it.
So Mr. Allen, I do have a question on the textbooks, because we have piloted textbooks
Yeah.
before, and I know some parents want to, be involved. They want to see them. Are there opportunities for parents to see those as we pilot them?
So we'll do the same thing we did with the econ book. We'll have a textbook available at central office. And also there's going to be books at every school site. So if you want to take a look, just stop in at the school, talk to the principal, say, I'd like to see the 5th grade or the geometry or whatever it is. And they'll be there for you to take a look at.
All right, awesome.
Is it-
So go ahead,
Is it
Susan.
possible to have a book night where it's not, an hour later in the evening or something that everyone would come to one spot and they could look at all of them instead of just coming to Central to look at a book. I'm just trying to figure out a way to maybe engage some more, because we're always hearing, parent involvement. We want to see the textbooks, but then, the last time it was Josh and me that looked at them. So maybe something, I'm just throwing ideas out there. It doesn't mean you have to do them, but
No, I think it's possible. We'll look into that, because we want as many eyes on as we can, right?
Yeah.
The more people that see it, that we can improve it, the better.
And then I just wanted to say, I am really grateful the district is looking into, the Hope Squad. I have a friend whose children were in a different district and they used that curriculum and they said it was just absolutely incredibly helpful. And, we've lost several students lately and we want to be able to reach out and do everything we can. So
It looks like it's a real positive program.
Yeah.
Like I said, kid-based.
Yep.
Not that the kids are gonna be dealing with it, but
Yeah.
just teaching them to look out for warning signs and how to help each other out and then how to find help. And I also had a meeting sometime, can't remember when, with a lady from the state about the 988 number, the suicide hotline, so we can publicize that a little bit more too, so.
thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Okay, any other
Madam
questions?
President,
Yes, please, Matt.
I apologize. Not that I want you having to stare at my big head anymore, but quick question that Mr. Allen indicated that we had 3 requests, only 2 of them met our needs and were approved. So can Mr. Allen expand briefly on, was that 3rd one that was not successful due to the state not approving it or due to not meeting our needs?
They didn't provide, the biggest thing was they didn't provide the textbook range that we need for secondary. I think their textbooks only went up through either algebra 2 or geometry, so that left out our upper level classes. And then there was also an element where we would have to go through a process of participating in the approval process with the state on some of the other textbooks. And honestly, it was more the vendor. She was the first lady we met with, was really impressed with her, but she kind of said, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to work from her end. So she advised us that maybe they weren't the best choice, which I had a lot of respect for that, because we're going to spend quite a bit of money. And for somebody to be honest and upfront up like that, we'll look at using their textbooks down the road in other subjects as we go, for sure.
Great, thank you. And thank you for talking about what that process would have been there briefly in your explanation, because we just want to make sure that we are communicating back to the state, as we have been in years past, on what our needs are if textbooks are not approved at the level and with the material we need. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul and Candace. You can talk, but I know you've been in on it. Thank you. Julie, our esteemed CFO, is going to come give a little presentation on some finance updates.
Okay, so I just put together some of the highlights. Coming to a board meeting pretty soon in the next couple months. We'll have the audited financial statements expected on the November 22nd board meeting. So I'm working with the auditors to get a finalized report. After that, we'll have the corrective action plan and the budget augment for FY23 is expected for the December 13th board meeting. So what this adjustment does is it adjusts the beginning balances to match last year's audited ending balance. And then we readjust from that. And then after that, the next budget adjustment will be in June. One of the biggest updates or changes right now is our transition to Nevada State Bank. So I pulled the October bank statements and just wanted to highlight the changes. So last year, for the whole year, our interest was $34,000. For Nevada State Bank, just 1 month was $27,000. So it's already paying off. It's in a fully liquid investment account, fully allowable government bonds. Every night it goes into that investment account and every morning it moves back. So we'll never be at a point where it's not liquid. It's fully liquid. And we've noticed a sharp decrease in fees as well. Student activity, we had to close the interest-bearing account with Wells Fargo because it was costing more to keep open than it was earning. And in October, Nevada State Bank student activity earned almost $5,000. So I won't be allocating $16 to 20 schools anymore. Another big plus to this change is we're going from 1 branch in Elko to 4 branches. They have a branch in Elko, Spring Creek, Wells, and West Wendover. So more of the schools will get to do their own deposits instead of sending it into Elko. ClearGov, I've updated the student count numbers and the pay-as-you-go summaries. So once we get the final audit report signed off on, I'll upload those amounts and the final adjusted budget for 22. In February 2023, we'll update the employee count, and the pay-as-you-go is an ongoing change. So just a reminder of what's all on here. There's the document portal, that's our budgets, our audited financial statements, our capital improvement plan, link to the main district page, board docs, our recorded YouTube channel, the Nevada report card, which Ray went over a couple meetings ago. There's the school budget, the state budget, which would show you can go in and drill down and see what they remit to Elko County School District. And I also uploaded the federal budget where you can see how much goes to education. So the student count has been updated for FY23, and then there's a breakout below by location. And then pay as you go is all updated as well, so you can see where every dollar was spent last year. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Working on audit and budget, and then we'll get a breather in the spring.
I don't know if you ever get a breather, Julie.
Right.
All right, any questions or comments for Julie? Julie, I just want, as always, it's just fantastic. This ClearGov is available to anyone who would like to see anything about the financials in the district at any time. If you can't sleep at 1 a.m, you can go ahead and get on ClearGov and you can find out everything you could possibly ever want to know about our school's finances. And maybe it'll help you sleep. I don't know. Maybe if it's like Julie, it might be like, oh, what can I do? Make amazing changes where we make more interest in a month than we made in a year. So that's fantastic, Julie. Thank you for what you do for our district financially. It's amazing. We need a wizard like you at times like this. So thank you for being here. Any other questions or
Madam
comments?
President, if I may.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button fast enough. Julie, thank you very much. Thank you, as Teresa just said, for the changeover in the bank accounts. I love seeing that, and the fact that, again, you and your team and the partners at NSB were creative in doing that. I appreciate that. In regards to the budget augmentation, is there a chance that there will be no items needing corrective action? And if that occurs, is it possible to augment the meeting or the budget at the November 22nd meeting right after you present that, or do we still need to have that gap in between?
I can tell you I won't have the audited financials and the budget done by the 22nd. The budget adjustment is due end of December, but I'll have it ready by the 1st. I think there's only one meeting in December. the goal is to have it ready in time for that meeting. It's a 100-page document and I won't get it balanced and ready in 2 weeks. It's highly unlikely that nothing will need adjusted. This budget was done back in April and May. So one, it needs adjusted for beginning fund balances that match the audit. And, you know, the schools are already doing budget adjustments, moving it like between library and instruction. That's a different function code. And if we're over in a function by $1, we'll say $100, that's a statute finding that goes in our audit report. So we want to avoid that. So I'm gonna say it will need a budget adjustment in December as well as probably another one in June.
Thank you. I was expecting the corrective action as auditory, or not auditory, because that's a different term, but audited processes that need to be corrected, not necessarily corrected balances.
You'll get the findings in the audit report, and I'm working on the corrective action plan. So maybe that'll get presented at the same meeting. Technically, we have another 2 months. But if we get it out early, then that'd be great. I sent it to the auditors for their review, so we'll see.
Terrific, thank you. And then this is perhaps best answered by Mr. Anderson. Would Julie manage the FOIA request portion on ClearGov if we do continue to move forward with posting all FOIA requests for the public? Or is that going to be somewhere else? Or are we ready to start talking about that yet? Do we still need planning?
Julie can jump in if I'm misspeaking, but similar to our standard FOIA requests, those go to multiple people to make sure there's always accountability. Like, for example, if I was the only one to get a FOIA request and it was about me and I was trying to hide something, then that wouldn't be very good, right? Because I can just hide that stuff. So that would go, Julie would certainly be part of that process. It would go to probably at least 3 or 4 people. And then just depending on the nature of the request and what it entails, she would or would not be involved necessarily in that finding of documents and sifting through materials.
I help pull together any financial information, but I think we'll be working with Kayla for a website. I don't think those FOIA, well, I'm not sure we've discussed if they'll be on the website or ClearGov. Either way, we'll get a link available.
Thank you. And that was, I guess, more to my point. I apologize. I knew the process side of it. So thank you for clarifying that, CJ. I was just looking at from the ClearGov or website aspect, when we make it, or if we still intend on making it public, who was going to manage that? And I was just hoping to hear an update as to timing on that based on what that answer may be.
Yeah, I think we would try to, we've talked about housing it, nothing's finalized yet. Keep looking at Kayla just to make sure I'm right, but we've talked about having it all in the same place to not make people have to figure out where what is, just put those requests in the same place. And if it's managed on our website, then that'd be under the purview of our communication specialist, and I guess Mac would have a hand in that a little bit as well.
And I think just in case anybody isn't familiar with the term FOIA, it's Freedom of Information Act. So as we're talking about these FOIA requests, sometimes people will, ask the district, oh, I want to know about this. I want to see all the emails on this or whatever. So they can do that. Or they could just call Mr. Anderson and say, hey, Mr. Anderson, can you talk to me about this? And that would be cheaper for the district. Just throwing that out there. But FOIA is that's what that stands for, just so that anyone who doesn't know now knows. Any other questions for Julie? All right.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That is for possible action. We can approve those updates, or we can just move on without a motion. Either is fine. What's the pleasure of the board? We don't need to approve them. I'm just saying it is for possible action. We can, or we can just, we've said thank you.
I don't think we did any of that.
Okay, awesome. Okay,
We'll
then
come
let's.
back, we have some book picked out.
There
We
you
can
go.
approve that.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, well then we will move on to item 3.1, which is our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just had something real quick that I had noticed in the minutes. I apologize, I didn't get this in earlier. I had other things on my mind all weekend, but at the very end, on approval of accounts payable, the motion and the second is both Ira, and so we need to get the right person on there. But other than that, it's all good.
All right.
So I'm not sure how to.
Well, I think we can approve the consent agenda with just asking for that correction to be made. Does that sound good, Cass? Okay, excellent. All right, any other discussion on the consent agenda? All right, all in favor of approval with that one correction, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Do read everything.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you. Item 4.1 is a report from our NASB director.
And on that, I really
Sorry,
don't.
I'm gonna apologize.
Oh,
So
go ahead.
NASB is Nevada Association of School Boards. That's our professional organization. Sometimes we should say these acronyms out loud so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate on that
Go
a
ahead.
little
Yes,
bit.
please.
With NASB, we have our national conference, state conference coming up this weekend. So depending a lot, basically on the results of what happens tonight with elections, hopefully we'll be going to meet with all the other school boards in the state. And I've been lucky enough to be our NASB director, so I get to go. I've been to Vegas, I've been to Reno, and then we had our conference last year also. You get to do a lot of fun stuff with training and with learning about different aspects of how a school district is run. And like, for example, coming up this weekend, we have main trainings where everybody will go to and they'll have a keynote speaker, but then they'll have breakout sessions where you can pick different things maybe that you need to study up on. For example, one that I'll be going to this time around would be the open meeting law training, and there's another one for beginning too. That's they're real good trainings, and it helps you learn and understand the law, because there's a lot of moving parts to what we do up here. But that is coming up this weekend, and just a reminder, I think everybody's got their stuff sent out to them for the conference, and hopefully that works out for us. But that's all I have regarding that NASB.
Thank you. Any questions or guidance? All right, we'll move on to item 4.2, which is items from board members.
It's all right. I'll just
Go for it.
continue on
Yeah.
from right there. I wanted to kind of explain what was going on this past weekend. We've had this election going on, and it's been tough with some of the noise that's out there. And generally when I get an agenda, it comes out on Thursdays, and I'll go right to the to section, because that's where the action items are. That's where the things that we generally like to find out, that's where I'm going to catch the price on a TV or where money's going. So I really look at those right away. And then Sundays is my relaxed day where, I'll get any immediate questions out of the way there, but then Sunday I really dive into it. So I didn't see on this agenda that we had the potential of moving into a closed litigation session to talk about some defamation that's happened from my opponent in this school board race. And I got to tell you, it's been a hard year regarding all this, because you hear all these things and you have your own questions too. But what I've tried to do the whole way is try and be above board. I've tried to focus on who's best for the job, who can do the best job, how much effort we put in, the accomplishments that we've made, and the progress that we're making towards making more accomplishments. And I've really, really tried to keep it to that. And when that item came out, the newspaper published something on it, and it hit me pretty hard, because I believe the headline, and forgive me if it's not exact, but it said school board considers suit against candidate. And I'm school board, and I didn't know what that agenda item was, because we do things the right way. We don't violate open meeting laws. There's nothing discussed beforehand. The agenda is up to the superintendent and up to the president. And I didn't know why. I called and talked to the superintendent a little bit about it, but I wanted to put out there, and that's why I made that public statement, is that I didn't have any knowledge of that. I was not trying to use that as any kind of a political tool or anything, and that I needed more information. And one of the things that I've loved about serving on this board is that I was able to make that call over the weekend. And I talked to President Dastrup and I talked to the superintendent and I expressed my concerns. And I found out why that item was there. And we've since released a statement on that item. And that was something that I had asked for. And I really appreciate that you guys listened to me on that. And I want to go out and say on the record too, that now that I know the facts behind it, I know exactly why that item is on the agenda, and I don't think it's inappropriate. I still do have my personal feelings regarding election day. But that being said, when you look at the timeline of things, that was not an intentional part of it. It's just coincidental that this is the next meeting. It happened to fall on this day, and that's when those items occurred. And that statement was made in the newspaper. So, I don't want to get into that too much at all, because again, I'm trying to stay this as positive as I can. And I'm just trying to do the best job for the district. And I just want to protect my integrity. And that's why I had that statement out there. But that being said, I want you all to know that I support President Dastrup and Superintendent Anderson in putting that on there. And I understand the reasons for it. And that's something that we'll end up talking about. I don't know what the resolution to that will be, but that's something for the board to decide. And whether I vote yes or no, for example, on the agenda today, I voted no because that's what I said I would do. But the rest of the board voted yes. And so we're going to proceed with that. And I'm going to give that my full participation and 100% of my effort, just like I would any other item on the board. So I just want to thank everybody going forward. This is a big day. It's been a hard weekend. It's been really stressful because I didn't get into this to be a politician. I got into this to just try and help make a difference. And hopefully we have. And I'm just want to tell everybody up here, I've been honored to serve with you this past year. And I know everybody has their heart in the right place, and that this narrative that's been floated out there by some of the opposition, that people are in it for personal gain, or it couldn't be further from the truth. I've worked side by side with these people now for the past year. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've never been approached to vote a certain way or to do something, but everything's done the correct way here. And I'm proud of everybody. I'm proud of how we served. And I'm thankful that I can make these objections and still, these guys talk to me and listen to me. And I'm just really thankful for everybody. Thank you guys for the support. And I hope everything goes well for us, going forward. But I had a big speech written and everything, because honestly, this is the freest I'll ever feel. It was right now. I don't know whether I've won or lost. What I've said here cannot be blamed on whether I won or lost. This is just from the heart. And I just want to say thank you. And I want to thank everybody here for being here too. It's a small turnout, but it's a good turnout. And we've had that issue going other places. And I kind of went off when we were in Wendover because we didn't have enough. So everybody that's out here, the next time we have one, try and bring a neighbor with you, try and bring another friend. Let's work on this. It's not going to happen overnight, and it can't be done by just one person. But if a couple of us do it, then other people will notice, and then they'll notice and they'll help. And before you know it, man, we're going to be in good shape. And so I think we've got a good team up here, and I appreciate y'all working with us. Anyway, I'll stop now, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, and who would like to go next? If anyone would like to go next. All right, Susan. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Josh.
To go back to the STARS program, we already have done November, and they have been asked to come to a board meeting. So hopefully Cassie can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. We're waiting for, it just happened coincidence that you were able, that we're having it in Carlin, so you could come. The other October recipient, haven't heard from her, so I will double check again, but hopefully she can come to the next one, along with Ernie Mendez from Spring Creek Middle School and Antonio Velasco from Mountain View. And Mr. Anderson, I will let you, when your report comes, you can talk about Spring Creek Middle School and the Ernie and all of that. I'll let you talk about
You want me to
how
do
great
part?
that was.
Sure,
It
I'd
was
love to do that.
fantastic.
I didn't even write it down because I thought you were gonna take it away. Well,
No, I'll let you do that one.
thanks.
I went to a fourth grade music program and Mrs. Colbert put that on, and as well as the children. It was fantastic. It was so good. And I don't always see it. Usually you do, but you know, they sang the national anthem, and I was just excited that when people stood up, gentlemen were taking their hats off, and you know, because sometimes you don't see that. And the kids, they were nervous, but they explained. She had a couple kids explain each song as they presented it, and they did. They just did a wonderful job. It was fun to see. Same with Flagview. I went to an award ceremony. Evidently, they have a student of the quarter. So Flagview is 5th and 6th grade. And that was also fun to see. The clapping that they do is, I know it sounds silly, but it was amazing because they told them, now, when all the 5th grade is done, then we'll clap. But in the meantime, just do that. And they did. They were, you know, so it was fantastic because it went a lot faster. And then when they were done, everybody clapped. So that was great. And then at the end of that, then they did, I guess they have a committee that puts it together, but the committee has some games they play after. So they had students against some of the teachers. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't know who the teachers were by name, but you know, I forget what you even call it, but when you're walking on your hands and someone's holding your feet. Wheelbarrow. And I'm impressed. Those ladies had some muscles because that's not easy to do. So like, it was fun. And some of the kids need to build up those muscles. So that was good. So that was fun. And I won't say it was fun. Informative is a better word for the State Board of Education meeting because it started at 2 and I think about 7 o'clock or 7:30 somewhere in there, they were just ending. I was like, wow, this is a long meeting. So I don't urge you to spend that many hours if you don't want to, because obviously I don't have a life much. But they are recorded. So if you want to go back and like watch sections of it, because they did talk about SEL and restorative practice, which was kind of interesting. So I'm trying to watch those just to kind of get what's going on and what their view is from that. I have to say they moved the meetings along. They have some good things they're talking about. I did manage to squeeze in some classes from Pool. One was on bullying, which I thought was really good. I did one on performance evaluations. Not that, I mean, it might help us with Mr. Anderson's. And then one on special education. They were just informative. The bullying one was a little bit longer than the other ones, but it was informative. I think that's all I have, hard to believe, except, sorry, one last thing, especially with what you had just said, because obviously I like to find quotes. And this is a quote from Walt Disney. If you look at an obstacle as an opportunity, you will find ways, you will use your creativity and find a solution that will solve the obstacle. Sometimes obstacles are actually gifts as they make us look at situations in a different way. And I just thought that was appropriate for today. And I just liked that one. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have anything?
I don't think about the quote, kind of off topic, kind of on quote. Our principal and our vice principal and our staff members here can agree that, but our student council made our school year theme Disney. At the beginning of the year, we started saying like Disney quotes. We've kind of veered off of that because we kind of forget to say the quote, but we do say a quote to end our morning announcements every day. So that was cool because we had Disney quotes for a couple weeks. No. There you
go. Awesome. Well, Addie, since you started, is there anything else you want to add in this point?
No,
okay.
I don't know.
Well, no, you've been awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
I've just got a question. Matt can probably answer this. The best way to get election results, since this is going to be a big night.
It is a good
Secretary of
night.
State.
So there'll be 2 main forms, and I were thanks because I was planning on talking about this a little bit anyways. 2 main areas to get the information. Elko County Clerk's Office will release the local results, and theoretically and not speaking on behalf of the clerk's office, but just from my understanding of how the process works, after the polls in Elko County have all closed, local results can start to be released, and all polling boxes, those, sorry, backing up a little bit, the polls that are the results that are released need closer to.
Matt, you went mute.
Oh, there we go. See, even the
All
computer
polls
wants
have been,
me to-
all that have been released is the last thing we heard.
even the computer wants me to stop talking. Okay, so briefly, after 7 o'clock, the results that are released closest to that time period will typically be the early votes, the mail-in votes that have already been tabulated. And then when all polling boxes have been received by the clerk's office, then to the daily or today's election results, in-person results should be released. Keep in mind, with Jackpot, with West Wendover, with Owyhee, it may be 2 hours before the sheriff's department is able to bring those boxes in. They are escorted by the law enforcement. Again, not speaking on behalf of either the clerk or the clerk's office or the sheriff's office, just understanding of the situation. Those do take time to get in. So all of a sudden there's gonna be a delay of about 2 hours typically. Then all of a sudden there's gonna be a big increase. That's natural, that's normal. Over the past few years, we've heard that that's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's not somebody messing with the votes. It's the process of how things go. So I can't express enough confidence in the clerk's office or repeat myself enough. That's normal. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that process. Those are the local results for our race, particularly. On the statewide race, the Secretary of State's office is the best area to get that. And they actually have a full website dedicated to election night results. Again, keep in mind that 0 results will be released until all polls are closed. Typically, Clark County lags behind the rest of the state, with polls staying open later, not because there's anything wrong, but because there are more people voting. And if you are in line to vote at 7 o'clock, then you are allowed to continue to vote. So that doesn't mean that there's a problem. It's not a conspiracy. It's just the process of things. When all polls statewide have been released, or sorry, have been closed, they'll start releasing the early election and mail-in ballots that have already been tabulated. And again, as a disclaimer, I'm not speaking on behalf of any agency, just my understanding of where things are. So Ira, does that very long-winded answer your question?
Yep. Yep, I was wondering.
nbsos.gov.
Yeah, there's
a short answer.
The local results is what I was. Sometimes it's hard to find those.
And
I believe they're all on there.
Right, and they will be on there,
SOS.
but sometimes it does not release on the statewide side until the polls have been closed for the entire state. So there is some back and forth on that. And the county clerk's office that I'm aware of has not invested in the infrastructure that the state has. So it's not this cool, fancy website, but they do a really good job usually of opening that up. And the Free Press usually has someone in the clerk's office that they start releasing things as well. So online at the Elko Daily Free Press may also be a good place to find those. Madam President, if Mr. Wines has nothing further, I can continue on my public comments.
Go ahead.
All righty, thank you very much. I apologize for not attending in person, and to the community of Carlin. I look forward to seeing you all again at a future date, I hope, but certainly I will stop by the school again in the future. And Miss Melendez, I'm sorry I haven't met you in person, but I will stop by to see you as well. I also was able to attend the Grammar 2 music program. Thank you, Mrs. Colbert, for putting that on, and all of the teachers. It was especially touching for me as a native Nevadan, singing about Nevada Day. That was awesome, and I appreciate that as well. Was able to participate out in Spring Creek Elementary for the booked PTA reading day that I had mentioned last time, but it just hadn't happened yet, so I was able to go forward with that. Before I forget, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans. Thank you very much for your service and for your family's service as well. The public comment, I had planned on bringing this up anyways, and so it worked kind of well that Mr. Litchfield had mentioned the transportation issue on crossing high-speed roads. I've been able to contribute a little bit to assist in driving buses. And that was one of the questions that had come up for me, was the 1.5 mile versus 2 mile radius. So I plan on talking with our transportation director and Mr. Anderson as well on what we can look at there. So that was good timing. So thank you very much. And the other public comments, including Trustee Durham's, I think I agree with Trustee Durham here in about, oh, that's what I meant to start off with. You have 10 minutes. If you haven't voted yet, you have 10 minutes to give the polls. Please do so. However, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be as free as I have been in a long time. The election has been difficult and it's been very emotional. I don't like grumpy Matt, and so I'm happy to go back to not as grumpy Matt here in a few more hours. So I'm looking forward to that regardless of the results. But in regards to the defamation side option, or items 7.02 through 7.04, I actually think the timing is about perfect for this. Doing it tonight before we get the results means that there is zero impact on it being a motivation for keeping someone out, keeping someone in, whatever it may be. I think that the timing is good, and I'd rather it not happen at all. So I agree with Mr. Hoffman. It is inflammatory, and it's a shame that we've gotten to that point. There have been some things said in the past, and I myself have issued an apology publicly as well. So I understand where that comes from. I think today's agenda item, we need to hear about it and then we can make that decision, but without knowing the facts, because as Trustee Durham said, I've spoken to no one about this. I wasn't aware of it until I had also seen it on Sunday, I believe. So it is what it is on that side. And I think the timing is appropriate, and I appreciate the effort that went into that. It's disappointing of the situation where we are, but until we hear what it is, we can't make action on that. So I appreciate both Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Gale submitting that public comment, but I will plan on moving forward into the closed session so that I can hear what the information is that we need to vote on as a board. I believe that is everything. Election day for me is almost a holiday. Actually, the day after, I usually try to take off work because I love election day. So happy election day to everyone. And here's hoping that our students have a successful board moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Anyone else?
I just have a couple things. I was just gonna go with, so we've been visiting the schools and been pleasantly surprised, not even surprised, been pleasantly surprised with all the good stuff going on. I didn't think that it wasn't going on, but when we go into classrooms, we were sitting around and I was talking with Mr. Anderson, and he's like, do you see the words that are in this, on the board in this room? And they were like thermodynamics, or they were higher end vocabulary. Then we have the math. We have math students with mathletes, if you will. Okay, mathletes is what I remember them as, but mathletes here, and they're talking about math, but they're reading at a pretty good level, right? So they're reading through stuff and talk. So we have good things going. We're in West Wendover talking about the reading program. So when we have to sit back and multiple trustees have talked about, the suit and the side business stuff. I don't want to take away from the kids, what's going on with the kids. And it's really important. This is important stuff, guys. Like, I appreciate every word you guys are saying. We have to make sure that we have a district and we have a board that can work together with the community. And so if we have to take actions in specific ways to make sure that those things are protected and that so that we can have students that are doing these things, I think that's important. So I just want to wrap it back up and say in that. And the last comment I'll make on that action item, well, not action, on the item, is that I believe I said in a board meeting, we should let the past be the past and let it go. And that has not been an action outside of this board by other people. And so we get to move forward to figure out what's going on with that. So, and then the last thing that I'm excited for is I'm a substitute teacher. So
Yay.
I know that my email box is now going to explode, but I have specific days I can do things. So I do have my clinic to run. But you'll probably see me out and about working as a substitute teacher at specific grade levels. I have my limits, okay? I have my limits. No. Oh, my goodness. So anyways, but anyways, so that is available. I know that that's something that's needed. It has taken a while. The state took their sweet time with it, whether they did or not. It was a couple months versus the last time I did it where I had it in a week. So we've got everything sorted and I should be good to go probably starting next week. And I'm excited about that. So, and unfortunately, guys, sorry, kindergarten is out. Like it's just now, it's not a jam.
Kindergarten cop. man.
No way. We don't need any of that. But anyways, that's all I got.
All right, thank you. And Ira, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I just have one story that I'm going to share, and just a shout out to all of the teachers, all of the schools that are doing amazing things. It's so fun to go and watch and see good things happen. And I will just say this last weekend, we were in Reno for the regional volleyball tournament. And I have to give a shout out to the Spring Creek High School girls volleyball team. They're going to state, first time ever, which is fantastic. But the memory I will have of that regional tournament, our girls lost a friend and a teammate recently. And they found out as they are grieving that one of the girls on the team that they were playing, which was Lowry, had lost her dad in an accident. And those girls got together, bought a card, wrote messages to this girl, bought a bouquet, and after the game, they waited for Lowry to finish their huddle, and their whole team waited and stood there when they were ready. They gave her those flowers and that card. They all gave her a hug, and then those two teams stood there together and just cried because they were both experiencing loss. And even though they had just competed very intensely in a great volleyball game and only one team was moving on, those teams, not the same school, they fought against each other before to, who's going to come out on top, but those teams stood together in tears and grieved together and took care of each other and lifted each other up. And that is amazing sportsmanship. That is amazing to see our kids recognize that they aren't the only ones that are struggling, that they want to reach out and they want to lift others up. And I am proud of our girls for what they did. And I know we have a lot of students in our district who need someone to reach out and lift them up. And I hope that they can have someone like those girls that'll reach out and help them when they need it and recognize that all of us go through challenging times and there's always someone there to help. So that was, like I say, something I think I needed to share. We have amazing students in our district, and I'm so proud of them for really recognizing needs when they are there. All right, we'll move on to item 5.1, our superintendent's report.
Thanks for sharing that, Teresa. Madam Chair. That's what I know of the schools I've been in, and that's what I know of the kids that I work with. Are there areas where sometimes we need to get better? Sure. Anyone who says otherwise is telling stories there too. But people who point out that our schools are anything less than filled with amazing people and having good things happen, I'd encourage people to consider the source when you hear just negative, because we know better than that. We're loaded with positive and we got areas to get better, and that's going to be our focus. But I'm so proud of our schools and our kids too. So thank you. I appreciate that positive message. I'll give a few more shout outs. I know you were heavily invested in the volleyball side of sports. We had a boatload of teams compete last week. Most of them met the end of their season, but I want to give kudos to those teams. So in football, Elko, Carlin, both went to the playoffs in their regional playoffs last weekend, and and their season ended there, but congrats to them for getting the playoffs. Spring Creek football was able to advance, and they're going to the next round. They'll be playing on Saturday. In volleyball, we had Elko, Wells, Jackpot, and Carlin. Again, Carlin was there. All those teams fought valiantly, but well done to them on good seasons. Let's see. And sorry, and one more volleyball. Obviously, you already mentioned Spring Creek, so they're going to the state tournament. In soccer, both
I think NOI, he's going to state as well.
Oh, okay, wonderful. That is missing from here, but I'll thank you, Oahi. So Oahi's also going. Thank you for the change. In soccer, the Elko girls and boys and Spring Creek girls and Wendover boys all went to the playoffs last week, and good job to them. Congrats on a great season. And then in cross country, we have a lot of exciting results. We will be recognizing some of these people at a future board meeting, but just give you a little bit of sneak preview. The Elko girls finished third, and the Spring Creek girls were state runners up as a team, and one of their runners finished second in the state. Her name is Kylie Munson. And then in boys cross country, the Spring Creek boys were the state champions, with Nathan Thomas also finishing as the #1 first place runner. So first place as a teammate and as an individual. And then gentleman from Elko High School, Braylon Agate. Agate, he finished second place overall. So Elko County had the #1 and #2 runners in the boys cross country. So congrats to all of those athletes this last weekend, and best of luck to both the Spring Creek football team and Spring Creek volleyball team.
And the girls cross country from Spring Creek were also the academic state champions. So
Awesome.
shout out to them.
All right. So I had it typed, and then there was a lot of written things in there. So my apologies to anyone who I may have missed. Couple other good news to talk about. So Susan gave me what I call a hanging curveball. That's something in baseball that you can just knock out of the park. So hanging curveball was the stars presentation we gave to Mr. Ernie Mendez. We'll honor him at an upcoming meeting, I'm sure too. But all the stars awards are fun to present because people who care about that, like I was here for the Lindsay one, that was awesome. Her kids were there. They all have these unique feelings to them where people who love that person and appreciate that person are able to honor them. At Spring Creek Middle School, when we got to see Mr. Ernie Mendez, his school organized essentially an impromptu assembly. I called Sally McDermott, the principal, and said, "Hey, we're coming in an hour." And she said, "Perfect, let me get the 8th graders together." And they were all in there. Nobody was the wiser. We're just in here for an assembly. Announced Mr. Mendez, and he broke down in tears because the kids erupted in applause, and he was crying, like multiple kids were crying. Other teachers just giddy with joy. He is clearly a beloved member of that staff, and just like I said at the start of my comments, we got some really good stuff going on, y'all. We really do. And that's going to be the focus. It's always going to be the focus coming from our offices are the awesome things that are happening, and trying to replicate that across other arenas, because if we've got the right people to have these kinds of things, we can make that happen elsewhere. It's give that attention where it belongs. But Mr. Mendez he tried to give some speech, but he was mostly speechless. And every student wanted to take a picture with him and pat him on the back. And I don't think they were just trying to get out of going back to class either. They genuinely love Mr. Mendez. So really grateful for him and all the other amazing staff members that we have in our school district. Just want to point out 2 more things, then I'll be done. Number 1, just so everyone knows the workings of board items, you saw there have been some criticisms of late that we have a bunch of board members and a process that is simply rubber stamping and or some people call it yes man type of stuff. You got to see today how that is absolutely not true. We had an agenda item that I didn't just have a revelation that we needed to strike number 6, we had a policy, and from feedback from people who've seen it and asked questions about it, it helped inform me and the other people who helped put the policy together that, you know what, this probably isn't exactly reflective of what we want to be and what we want to do. So let's look at that again. So I was able to come and present them with something different, or give another recommendation, right? And then they were able to deliberate on that. That's how these things work. I spent no fewer than 2 hours talking with Josh last week because he had some concerns about something, and I was there to listen, and he gave me some suggestions. Jeff, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was on my way to a fun football game with friends and family. You caught me in Owyhee, and I stopped my trip for a half hour so we could, I stood outside, snowing, raining, talking to you on the phone, because that was important. We needed to talk about that before I continued my trip, because I wasn't gonna enjoy the football game, and I wasn't.
Well, I knew, if I'd have known you're doing BYU, I'd have talked longer.
You would've kept me going a little longer.
Save you some misery.
But you know, I get so many questions on a regular basis from our board members. They are inquisitive as can be, and they give a lot of suggestions. And it's a discredit to honest work that goes on with district staff members, and it's a discredit to board members who spend lots of hours studying board meeting items and becoming informed. That's why you see notes. That's why you see them well prepared, is because they care and they do a lot of work on that. And whether it's them or another incoming board member after the election, I encourage everyone to replicate the type of behavior we've seen from the board in the last year, because they've been phenomenal. And I really appreciate the way they do things the right way. I also want to thank Mr. Litchfield for bringing up the issue with the school buses. I know Matt said that before. There's got to be something different we can do about that. I'm not saying someone hasn't already tried, and that may be what I find out is, hey, we've given it our best and that's what we got, but we're going to look into that. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Last one, we had an EOP training. EOP stands for Emergency Operations Plan. We had one scheduled for tomorrow with our site administrators. Because of all the terrible weather that's going through this side of the country, our visiting trainer is unable to come, so we're not going to have that training tomorrow. But that will be a training where we continue to educate our administrators on how to appropriately respond to emergency events, and for us to figure out how to, we have an emergency operations plan, but it's going to be better. We're going to make it better. And that's what the purpose of this training is for. So I was hoping to get y'all excited about us getting better at our jobs, and that'll have to wait a little bit longer, I guess. But we're going to be doing that. I just want to always make sure we're bringing a focus to student safety, because that is number one most important thing we do and we take very seriously. And so I look forward to having a report about that and what we learned. And yeah, good luck to all the candidates. We got results coming in, I guess, probably now. It's hard not to look, but we're a little busy at the moment. So yeah, I'm done. I'll stop.
All right, any questions for Mr. Anderson before we move on? All right, we'll move on to item 6.1, approval of the accounts payable.
I move to approve the accounts payable for November 8th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And I should have asked for any abstentions or disclosures on that one. All right. Chair votes aye, and that motion carries. We have one more set of accounts payable. I will disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, so I will be abstaining on this.
I move to approve the Wells Rural accounts payable November 8th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair abstains and the motion carries. All right. Item 7.1 is a final opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to make a comment? Please.
I just have a question. I've served on a number of different boards, paid and non-paid, and I'd like to know your policy on a trustee that sits on the board and then is also employed by the school district. Just need clarification on that.
Yeah, sure. So we actually looked into that, got a legal opinion from our counsel, because not only does this guy now have a a license as a sub, but I actually witnessed Matt McCarty driving a bus last week. He didn't know. I waved to him, but he was being a good bus driver and not being distracted. But I was picking up my daughter at Flagview and I saw him driving walkie-talkie in hand and everything. But it is for various reasons, legal has ruled that, or not ruled, but given us their opinion that it's okay to do that. There are potentially circumstances in which maybe it would be wise to abstain from a vote if it has something that's very directly related to a job responsibility that they take. But because they're not full-time employees, they are subs in essence, then there isn't a policy on it, but we have a legal opinion that states that we're not a violation of anything.
Would you say something like budgets then would be an area?
Could be something specific in a budget. Yes, I wouldn't say budgets as a whole, though.
As a part-time employee, I mean, anyways,
Yeah.
Come on. We'll discuss it.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? All right.
I don't know. The
Go
only
ahead,
thing that I
please.
have to say is just like school wise, like I don't know, like I'm in sports, like I don't know, like I see every school and I'm friends with people like literally everywhere. I just would like to comment on the Spring Creek as well. We about like a month and a half ago we had an accident with a student. And Wells, who is our rivals, so to speak, which I don't feel like we really have any rivals at this point. Like with anyone, like I feel like we're all a very close. Like all the schools are really close. We're all really good friends. We took a moment before the game, so there's a lot of good this year across all the schools.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Eddie.
Thanks,
Okay, we don't like Will, it's okay.
I mean, Mr. McKinnon's not here.
All right, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
I apologize, just to circle back around to public comment or a comment I made under board comments. silverstateelection.nv.gov is the correct website. But as Jeff said, yes, for results, Secretary of State's office, nevadasos.gov, something along those lines. So.
All right, thank you. All right. If there's no one else that wishes to make a comment, I will entertain a motion to move into closed session. And at that point, the board will leave. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for all you do for the community of Carlin and Elko County School District in general. We appreciate that. We appreciate your participation and hope you have a good night. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So item 7.2 is a motion to move into closed session. We can wait for people to leave, but we're also leaving shortly too, to another room. We can make the motion here.
I move into closed session.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second to move into closed session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Okay, any opposed, nay? Okay, chair votes aye, and we will move into closed session. All right.
Sure.
To also move to another.
You guys don't